We are back. We've been on, off again. We've been busy, but I'm glad you guys are tuning in. How we doing, Mr. Ed?
We're all good. I finally published my paper yesterday. That
Congratulations.
came out into the world.
Do
On
you have somewhere that
lactate.
people can find it?
If you search on Google lactate and the word theranostic or lactate metabolic psychiatry, I'm guessing it's going to come up.
Okay.
Or lactate. Yeah, I think that's
Can
probably.
you just have like a link of it on your website? Should I put a link of it on richardasellis.com?
Oh, we could do that. Seems easy. I don't
Might
know.
be easier for
I don't
people
want
to find
people
it.
to read it.
Oh, why? That feels like there was work put into it.
There was a lot of work put into it. No, I hope it goes somewhere. I mean, for me, it was a Trojan horsing of the medical and scientific community for them to realize that lactate is something that you can actively regulate yourself. So
Right.
maybe there's active solutions to changing the way that you feel.
Yeah.
You'll see in the
I feel
paper
like
that
there
there's,
is.
yeah, there is, and that's probably what we're going to talk about. There's also passive ways that you can actively change how you feel as well, if that makes sense
Truth.
and is a good segue. I don't really know.
Yeah.
We've both
Well,
had quite a few clients recently.
Yeah, I've been extremely busy, which I'm really enjoying. I go back and forth and like, it'd be kind of cool to have my own little studio here. So I can just have constant like drove of people coming in and seeing me. I need to get the drove of people to come and see me first before I go and invest in an entire studio. My idea would be cool though, be to have like have coaches learning while I'm coaching and watching me teach people, and then like working on clients, helping coaches out, build coaches up. But yeah, it's been really good. I've had a lot of really cool clients, some that are coming with, being a lot more athletic, and are capable of handling lots of stress, shall we say. And it's interesting because as soon as I force them to be present, there's a new concept I'm working with, which would be the hierarchy of contractions. The mentoring programs will get the first dibs on all of that knowledge. But essentially, as soon as I force these athletes that are extremely capable of handling load, volume, skill, exercises, and we do something as simple as Swami jumping dips and jumping pull-ups, and within 3 sets, they're queasy, pukey, not understanding what's going on, can't do any more pull-ups. It's kind of interesting and fun. Or doing something as simple as Swami session and some calf raises, and they break down crying, going like, what the fuck is going on here? So I've been playing around with these concepts, and I'm, it's been years in the making, and obviously we've talked a lot about the emotional stuff and the emotional component, or the change of belief system and the active regulation of how we perceive the world. And yeah, it's been a fun road recently. I'm getting deeper and deeper into kind of tuning in my craft and being able to essentially find anybody and forcing them to be present with themselves, and then actively wanting to go for the change. And more importantly, if they're not wanting to make that change, I can see where the body will find its ways to displace tension. So in a certain way, I'm able to see who the client is. Do I want to take them there? Do I not? And then that allows me to go, okay, this client is coming to see me just for simple hamstring pain or hip pain, or shoulder pain, whatever it may be. And we kind of go at it on the physical side, but I'll give them the taste of what can happen if we truly want to connect, because in the end, I think all the issues will come back if we don't have the change of perception, and the capacity to control how we want to behave. So that's been my amazing epiphany moments in the last couple of weeks. Interesting note, I've been having a lot of these discovery calls with people that are high anxiety, having borderline physical panic attacks, so physical symptoms, so heart palpitations, not able to control body temperature, what else? Intrusive thoughts coming into play, so on and so forth. So just basically borderline panic attacks, if not full-blown panic attacks, unable to control breath. And there's been a correlation with about 8 out of 10 of these last calls that I've had. Now I'm searching for it. They've all been exclusive ice bathers. Is that a thing? Is that a term? Ice bathers?
I mean, they just live in the ice bath exclusively, maybe not.
Yeah,
exclusive.
so with all of these clients, they went through a spree because it was sort of a fad through COVID, and now still continuing now, starting to change. That fad's starting to change a little bit more towards red light, so that'll be an interesting one to look at as well. But they've all been going into ice baths religiously for a period of 3 months to a year and a half, which essentially is allowing you to have these higher dopamine effects. My guess is, we can go into, different effects that it's having on the body. It could sort of become a passive approach to wanting to change your belief system or your perception. But of course, as all things, they start to end. And then a withdrawal symptom seems to be higher anxiety. So I kind of want to go into that a little bit deeper and kind of get your point of view on it. And if you're somebody out there that's doing these kind of religious ice baths, 3 to 5 times a week, because everybody and their mother has said that it's so good for you and the changes are amazing. Again, I think those are all based on if they're active changes, just like with movement, it needs to be active and the right constraints need to be, taken into consideration.
Yeah. I think that it's interesting. So I think every single tool has a place. And I think that's something that we both acknowledge with the clients that we work with, is that just because somebody says something works doesn't necessarily mean it's going to, inverted commas, work for you. It's always goal related, and it's always about seeing the gaps and knowing what that person needs, what the system needs, either from a cellular perspective or from a nervous system perspective. And for me, going straight into ice baths, there's a way to introduce yourself to cold therapy to make it more sustainable, to make it easier to do it every day if you wanted to, like the face dunks that we've talked about in the past.
Right.
Things that are straightforward, they don't take a lot of ritual to go and do. And they start to prepare the body for a new stimulus, and it's quite an intense stimulus, and you can even kind of cause mineral imbalances and all sorts of things, because it's another form of exercise. You just don't perceive it as that, like there's another stressor on the body. And again, when you put somebody through an assessment or movement ayahuasca, you are very aware of the stress that person needs at that time. And I think that's almost like the scalpel, where you can be very precise, whereas the ice bath is like a very blunt tool where, yeah, it's going to cause you stress. You don't necessarily know whether that's going to be a good stressor in the long term or potentially negative. And again, I suppose nothing is good or bad. It just is changing the system. But as the system adapts to that new thing, then when you withdraw it, so for example, as you said, you can get anxiety. Ice baths are good because they certainly raise your energy, they raise your dopamine. They can change the fatty acid composition in your membrane, so you can change the sensitivity of the signaling pathways. All of those are great if you are sustainably doing it forever.
Right.
But if it's a summer and you're doing it every day, and then wintertime comes around and you're like, oh, it's too cold, then you've caused a massive mismatch in your environment already, because you're doing ice baths through the summer and then the winters come around with it actually cold outside and you're then not doing it anymore.
Don't want to do it. So going back really quick, so you said there's changes in the fatty acids, right? At a, kind of more cellular level. So as you start to have these changes, then do you start to have withdrawal symptoms as well? Because you're changing the environment. Now that you have the air, there's a withdrawal, right? Just like you would with cocaine or smoking weed or
well, exactly, yes.
or
so
sugars.
they know even the studies with 14 degrees Celsius, which I don't know what that's Fahrenheit, 55, something, I don't know.
That's below zero, bro. That would be freezing. 32
Okay.
Fahrenheit is freezing. So
Okay.
it has to be Celsius.
Yeah, well, it's definitely 14 Celsius, but it's not
Yeah.
too cold. Like, it's not ridiculously cold to get the benefits of the dopamine. But there's definitely a trend I'm seeing that people really like to have it really, really cold. Like, they want more ice and they want it cold,
Right.
rather than just sitting in a cool water that may eventually make you start to shiver after an hour or so. But there's definitely that norepinephrine and the dopamine high that you get. And yeah, when you take that stimulus away, you're not getting those highs anymore. So you're going to be in a low relative to the last 2 or 3 months.
And so if you were to be somebody that isn't necessarily following a clean diet, just I don't know if this would work or not, right? But just as a correlation. So you go from doing these ice baths because they're supposed to change you and make you feel better. And then let's say winter comes around, you stop doing them, or just life gets in the way, whatever it may be, you stop doing them, but your diet is kind of shit. Would you search for more sugars or more of these kind of simple foods that can raise kind of dopamine levels and give you that sort of quick reward system?
Probably. And you'd probably get more addicted to social media and any other mechanism that you can get those quick hits from.
Right. So this is the interesting thing, right? Because it's always healthy until it isn't. This is where I feel like the chase for that root cause comes in, because you see this you're jumping from addiction to addiction as symptoms. You're trying to heal symptoms. So whether that's ADHD or trying to be healthier, whatever that means. But then there's still not necessarily a balance. Does that make sense? So it's a for me, it was interesting because most of again, 8 out of the 10 clients that I talked to, this high anxiety and physical symptoms of anxiety and panic starting to take over the body because there's a dysregulation of the symptom. And we kind of looked at everything, and everybody was essentially eating fairly healthy, training consistently. The only thing that changed was the ice bath were taken away, and the physical symptoms of anxiety started to pop in. So it's an interesting conversation to have of, okay, so then what is if we're looking for this sort of reward system that could be active, not passive, right? Because again, you can get into the ice bath because you can passively want to heal or fix or become optimized, whatever that means. At what point is it just maintenance to make sure that you're not falling backwards? And then is it just a dependency? I mean, if you're taking something away and you're having these symptoms of panic coming through, essentially you were dependent on the ice bath to try and keep you regular, just as you're dependent on smoking a joint every night to relax, or having a cup of coffee to get your day going.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it through a thermodynamics perspective, when things are cold, you get much more order in the system. They form crystalline structures. So one of the reasons that cold can be useful to reduce inflammation and improve healing and help the body in certain ways is because it creates more order and less chaos. So it allows things to align where maybe they weren't before. So yeah, you're going from I found this way to create order externally for a long period of time, and then I've taken it away. So all I'm going to experience is relatively a sense of chaos, which is anxiety, panic,
right,
etc. Because you're still trying to find the order.
Jam. So if you're out there and you do ice baths, don't stop. You're in it for life.
There's always ways to create order, right? But I mean, I suppose that's
Yeah.
the same with people that the same type of thing as when you see people who do psychedelics continuously but never actually make the changes they need to in their life.
Right.
They just gain anxiety over each successive ceremony that they would do.
Yeah. I just saw a video clip that came up of a guy saying how bad ayahuasca is for you, and he did it, and of course it opened up. I mean, you're taking DMT, man, you're opening up all the channels at once. And had full-blown panic attacks for like 3 to 6 months, like just had to go to like almost like psych ward level, like just he was just gone. That's the beauty of movement, right? That you have control of what can be opened up, and the body allowing you to change, or at least displace the tension if it feels that you're not capable of making these changes at the moment, shall we say.
Yeah, I think it's just this whole field is something that just is not understood by, I say it's not understood. There's not a well described field and or set of principles, which is basically what you teach with the Moved Academy. Is through movement you can access the nervous system very precisely, because you can see what the nervous system is doing through movement. You can see the connection from the brain to the muscle to the brain, and then the thermostat, which is the autonomic nervous system. So how stressed somebody gets in specific situations based on the actions that you give them. That's not well documented. So for example, neurologists in medicine, in my field of colleagues, there aren't somatic therapies for neurological conditions. There's drugs to reduce inflammation, and that's pretty much all they do.
Right.
In neurology, there's just a drug, that steroids. They basically give that for most progressive neurological conditions, because they've got to a point where the inflammation is so high the nerves just stop working or don't work correctly.
Right.
Obviously I'm being simplistic, but there's not at no point is there or maybe we could change how the nervous system is responding.
Right.
There's biofeedback, which is kind of more of a fringe thing, and actually people at the research institute I met do that kind of thing, but again, there's no funding for it. It's not regularly used.
Why is that?
Just because when the whole system has its way of, we have this problem, we have this solution, all of the things that are set up from a business perspective follow that trajectory, then adding something new from the outside is always very difficult. This is the challenge that I've always had, is throughout COVID and even before, is we know there's better ways, and even your dad's experience as well, to manage certain conditions.
Right.
If you have an issue with your blood sugar, then maybe reducing your blood sugar is probably a good idea.
It's a good solution. It's a good start.
It's the same as if somebody has a celiac disease, then avoiding gluten is probably a good idea. But we don't like transport that idea to other realms.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's why I know we're gonna have way more people being interested in the teaching from Moved Academy, from the podcast, from whatever else, because there's not really anybody. There's people talking about the practicalities, but not why it's happening, not fully understanding.
Right. Well, and every time that you, at least most of the stuff that I start to run into, right? It's like the movement is medicine and it can help with depression and with anxiety, but you still see most of these people that are professing it going through big spurts of anxiety and depression and OCD, and Peter Attia being one of them. Like, the guy's supposed to be like the health freak, but he still continuously talks about his anxiety and his ups and his downs and everything else. And so I feel like there's still just a very much he has a wealth of knowledge and information, but it's improperly applied, because I feel that the application of it is in a reactive setting, not an active setting. If that makes sense. That's what I've been playing with recently, with talking about the Golgi tendon organs and now going deep into kind of like the muscle spindle cells, I'm working on this kind of hierarchy of contractions where you're forcing people to actively contract the muscles. It changes the whole game. It's super interesting. I was playing with it today. And essentially, if you guys want to give it a try, pick an exercise and you're going to go up and down kind of pyramid scheme, and you can do this several times, understanding that the exercise is always going to be the byproduct. The goal is for you to actively search for the contraction of the muscle and how it feels to contract the muscle and keep it contracted as the muscle spindle cell lengthens and shortens. And so playing around with this, it's been very interesting. And I've had some pretty impressive results today. I finished, I mean, we're talking like close to 100 and something repetitions going up and down in weight. And my final set was 17 or 18 reps at 100 kilos on the bench press. Bam, beautiful. The peckalicious, baby. All natural.
I did similar with my new training style.
Yeah.
Really found the connection on the lats, and I could work out when I was pulling with the mid back.
Yeah.
It's fun. I mean, it seems intuitive when you've done it once.
Right. And and the next, like the cool part is like, I can see like the change in my body composition almost in like one session. Like, yeah, mind you, it's not like, I'm getting shredded in one session or anything like that, but the way that I perceive how I look when I go into the gym to when I leave the gym is totally different. It's crazy. And the way that I like the aura in which I'm walking around in seems to change heavily as I'm starting to connect more and more and more. And it's enjoyable and fun. Like that's also a big one. Anywho.
My mind went blank. I was going to ask something. I'm going to Miami in October. Have you been to
To
Miami?
Miami. It's a fun city.
Well, Florida.
If there's no hurricanes, it's hurricane season.
Yeah.
In October, oh no, October I think is the end of hurricane season. That should be
Tail
fun.
end, I think. Tail
Okay.
end.
Lots of sun and humidity.
Anywhere in Florida that's good to go?
Miami is a cool. I mean, it's a cool vibe. Miami's got its own baller vibe. It's just, I think like you either love Miami or don't love Miami. It's not like a medium place. It feels like everybody looks the same. Like it's just a bunch of it's like plastic clones of like Latino women and like very jacked dudes.
Damn it.
And then it gets ghetto, and that's Miami.
Okay.
So you got to work out with Jack and Terry. How did that go? So she's doing good. We're going to start an actual powerlifting program here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So we had Jack and Terry in the podcast. And yeah, they came over to visit, or they're over visiting family, and I mean, it's great because obviously I haven't seen either of them move before.
Right.
But watching Terry like do the Dimmel deadlifts, I could see that she'd been taught to find it herself.
Yeah.
Like there was an independence there, and there were only a few cues I needed to give. Yeah, and she felt the glutes and hamstrings fairly quickly, which was great. Did some squats, and then we did some sled drags, sled pulls, which Jack didn't really enjoy, but I made him do them anyway.
Good for his mind. Keep it quiet.
Yeah, well, he made the same bicep excuse again.
Yeah.
And then I just said, okay, well, we'll just make it heavier.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the pain went away. But yeah, Terry found her lats as well. They were sore the next day. So yeah, she's excited, and then they did a big hill hike that was like 3 hours
Oh,
the
jam.
next day, and
Beautiful.
she didn't have any soreness
Or hip pain,
or hip pain, so
which is
that's
always
great.
good. Beautiful. I dig it. Yeah, there's something about intensity, right? That's the other thing that I keep looking at the gym and I talk about all the time. The lack of intensity in the gym is ridiculous, like in movements, like. This is where the reactive side comes in, and you can go through exercises and never really be active in them or present in them. And so forcing that intensity where you just, the mind needs to switch networks and you need to just fucking go for it. And that only comes through building of intensity, not through building of skill. And that's been what I've been playing with. So I go, I choose exercises that are always very simple and low skill, or the ones that I've enjoyed. Those aren't the ones that, you guys should be playing with. But for me, it's I go with exercises that I have the skill of already, and I can just really start to push on it and push the intensity. But I see people at the gym, I get to the gym and I'm sweating because I've been biking and I push the bike when I get to the gym. Like I go fast. And I feel like I haven't seen a single person sweat in the gym since I've been there. It's crazy. When you've been to that gym, it's massive. There's a
Yeah,
lot of people. Not a single one was sweating.
I I watch some powerlifters in the gym that I go to, kind of like warming up. They get here, they're like an hour early, and they foam roll every single muscle of their body, like on the floor.
That's called creating false sense of safety to be able to move some load.
And they have like 10 minutes of rest between each set
Mhm.
after spending longer on the setup for the lift than the actual lift itself.
Right. That's ridiculous.
And they're, I mean, I guess it's a thing. They seem like they're in their
In
early
their zone.
20s. So maybe that's just a phase everyone goes through.
No, I think, listen, dude, I went into powerlifting. I never rested so much. I would fucking just lift heavy weights. Can we just fucking move?
I find it
So
hard these days to rest for 2 minutes between sets.
yeah, I usually don't go more than 90 seconds. If I'm doing really heavy, like I did deadlifts, I did triples today at 200 and something kilos. But I was doing maybe, yeah, it was around 90 seconds. So I always use songs as my resting period. So it maybe goes a little bit longer, but then I get antsy, so it's more of a buildup and then I go kill it. But yeah, man, I mean, I don't have shoulder pain, I don't have back pain, I don't have hip pain. And I got to the gym today. I warmed up with 120 kilos for the deadlifts, built up to 230 or 240, and then went back down and then went back up and then went back down. And then I went to the bench press because I was already warmed up. I mean, I did my calf races before. Sorry, that's my warm up, the calf races and the bicycle. So it's like 15-minute bicycle ride to drop off my son and then come back, get to the calf raise machine, do about 180 reps or so, just kind of bouncing up and down light, pyramid down, back up. Then I went straight to the deadlifts, started at 120, built up, went back down, built up again. Then I was like, I'm going to go bench because the bench opened up and it just sounded like fun. Warm up was at 80 kilos, went up to 140, 150, back down, back up, back down, back up. Finished with 100, but there was like no stretching and rolling or ball pointing. What is it called? The myofascial ball release.
Yeah.
None of it. You just have to move. People just move. It's that simple.
Yeah. I
With
mean,
intention.
I even think about programming. Now I'm like, if you have a selection of exercises, as you say, that you have built the skill level to, I just have those on going round and round, and whatever not necessarily what you feel like, but whatever you need,
Right.
just push the intensity on that, and then you'll have a sensation of what you need to do next, usually after that.
It's amazing. Yeah, today I felt it. I felt really good. Was it after the bench press that I finished? I think it was after the bench press. Because it sort of went like the phylogenetic hierarchy. And I think it was after the bench press. I think that's when I sent you the message of like, holy shit, like this is legit. And then I finished off with sumos again. I went back to sumos because it felt like fun. So from conventional to sumo. I do both, people.
My issue is when I get into training, particularly back into training my legs, then my quads just grow too quickly. And I have a wedding in a couple of weeks, and the suit is already tight.
Oh, yeah. They can't hem you, the quad's a little bit bigger.
I need to
The
try
thigh
and find
area.
a way.
But like have them add like a stripe of fabric all down the side, take them to like a tailor and pick like a cool pinstripe and just have, they can add a pinstripe down the side, make it 3-tone. Bam.
I mean, it's part of the groom's party, so I don't know
No, go
if I
matching.
can
Yeah,
edit it. Yeah,
don't mess it up.
just put a pink line or something.
Go do cardio, loosen them, make them
Yeah,
smaller.
I think running is probably a good option at the moment.
Oh, beautiful, my man. Well, I think we're gonna end it here now that we're rambling, but I have to get on a call. I'm 2 minutes late. I just got a notification. Oops, my bad. Anywho,
Enjoy.
it's been wonderful. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to follow us on Rare Barracuda and Dr. Ed Caddy through all the different social media platforms. If you guys have any questions, comments, need any sort of help, make sure to head on over, send us a message. We can chat, we can get on a call. Or if you are a coach wanting to evolve your skills and get better at understanding all the craziness that I'm talking about, head on over to Moved Academy, join our group mentoring program. We have all the fun. We have a lot of discussions. We look at a lot of movement and we break down all of the nitty gritty scientific shenanigans. That sounded pretty. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
Peace.